Ever wonder why the calmest man in the room always wins? It's not because he's the strongest. It's because he knows something others don't. How to stay unshaken when everyone else is falling apart. What if the real strength in a confrontation isn't in fighting back, but in doing absolutely nothing? What if silence isn't weakness, but the most powerful weapon you have? Want to humiliate someone without even opening your mouth? Here's how stillness, yes, stillness, can make a disrespectful man look small, weak, and utterly insecure. Disrespect, it stings. It pokes at your pride. It awakens a primal urge in you, the desire to defend, to retaliate, to strike back with words sharper than theirs. But here's the reality no one tells you when you're growing up. Disrespect isn't a weapon, it's a mirror. And the man holding it? He's not showing strength, he's revealing weakness. When someone insults you, they are not dominating you, they are exposing themselves. His words are not daggers, they are confessions. Confessions of deep insecurity, of unchecked anger, of a desperate need to assert dominance in a world that makes him feel small. And here's the part most people miss. The moment you react, you lose. You hand him the very thing he was fishing for, your emotional energy. You step into his frame, on his terms, in his arena, and once you're there, he controls the game. But what happens when you do nothing? What happens when you stare back, unbothered, with a silence so loud it drowns his words? You flip the script. You show everyone, especially him, that he's not in control. He's scrambling for it, and you're not playing. This is Stoicism in action. A Stoic does not lower himself to fight fools. He doesn't engage in worthless wars, or allow cheap words to steal his inner peace. He stands above it, anchored, still, untouchable. So how do you make a disrespectful man look small without even saying a word? Let's start with the first principle of quiet power. 1. Understand that an insult says more about them than it ever will about you. Imagine someone insults you in front of others. His voice carries, his words meant to cut deep. People turn to see your response. But instead of flinching, you pause, you breathe, you let the silence stretch. And in that silence, you win. Because here's the truth. A man who insults you is speaking from his own chaos. He's not telling the world who you are. He's telling the world who he is. He's revealing his anxiety, his instability, his desperate hunger for control. He wants to drag you into the emotional swamp where he lives, because he cannot survive there alone. His insult is not a fact. It's not the truth. It's a projection, a window into a troubled mind. This is where the wisdom of Epictetus becomes vital. When someone treats you poorly, remember, they act based on what they think is right. It's not about you. It's about their worldview, their pain, their distorted lens. You're just the screen they're projecting their insecurities onto. That's why you must not internalize the insult. See it for what it is. A plea for attention disguised as aggression. A desperate need for validation wearing the mask of confidence. Truly powerful men with self-respect and mental discipline, don't throw insults. They don't need to. Only the weak attack with words, hoping to bring others down to their level because they can't rise on their own. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Don't grant them what they crave. Don't step into their storm. Observe, watch, let their tantrum echo unanswered in the silence. Because that silence, that's your strength, and now the whole room knows it. 2. Respond with silence or amused indifference. There's a power in not reacting. A power so immense it unsettles the very person trying to provoke you. When someone lashes out, they expect friction. They crave it. They want to ignite you because it confirms they matter. But when you remain still, emotionally and physically, you starve them. And in that starvation, they shrink. Picture this. A fool insults you in front of others. He leans forward, smirking, trying to provoke you, but you don't bite. You meet his gaze, not with anger, but with calm, maybe even a small smirk of your own. Not one of malice, but of amusement, as if to say, "Is that all you've got?" You just exposed him, without a word. Because a man looking for a fight is powerless against a man who refuses to give him one. That is Stoic mastery in motion. Your silence is not passive. It is deliberate. It is thunderous. It communicates that his opinion is irrelevant, that his attempt to affect you has failed, and that you are far beyond his reach. Even more powerful? Amused indifference. It shows that not only do his words not wound you, they don't even register. That he's not your opponent. He's barely a background character. In any social setting, this creates a shift. People see the contrast, his noise versus your calm, his ego versus your presence, and they know, instinctively, who won the moment. So remember this. You don't always need the last word. Sometimes, the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. Now that we've seen how silence can disarm even the loudest fool, it's time to explore what allows you to stay unshaken when tested. What kind of mindset lets you rise above the noise? Time and time again? And when you don't react the way they expected, it confuses them more than any insult ever could. Because in the moment you choose to stay calm, you're not only denying them the power they were hoping for, you're also holding up a mirror, forcing them to confront their own insecurities. There is a profound paradox here. Letting go actually brings more, not less. This isn't a trick or a gimmick, it is a fundamental principle in the flow of life. Force creates resistance, while openness creates flow. When you loosen your grip, you return to the present moment, where decisions become clearer, vision sharper, actions more precise, and less noisy. Imagine how differently you show up when you are calm, centered, and not dependent on something happening in order to feel okay. Your energy shifts. Your presence becomes naturally magnetic. You're not pushing people or opportunities away with tension. You're inviting them with authenticity. And even when things don't go as hoped, you don't collapse or spiral, because you're no longer attached to a specific outcome. You are committed to truth, growth, and showing up with integrity, regardless of how the outside world responds. This is the power of surrender. It gives you your life back, not as a reward for letting go, but as a natural result of being fully here, no longer postponing peace until conditions are perfect. So ask yourself, what are you gripping so tightly that it causes more tension than movement? What are you afraid will slip away if you stop chasing it so hard? And what would it feel like to want something deeply without needing it to define you? That shift is everything. It doesn't take away your passion. It doesn't dull your ambition. It simply grounds it. It reminds you that you are already enough. You probably remember from the previous part that life is not something to conquer but to align with. Now, let's dive deeper into this truth in our daily life and close relationships. Life is not a battle we need to win. It is a flow we need to harmonize with. When you live from that space, free, focused, and fully present, what you truly need often comes to you naturally. Not because you demand or force it, but because you are finally ready to receive it. Have you ever noticed how, In our closest relationships, we often, consciously or unconsciously, try to control others. We want them to become the image we expect, respond the way we want, love us by our definition, and meet our needs without us even asking. But when that doesn't happen, frustration begins to creep in. We start managing, correcting, sometimes even manipulating others, not always with ill intent, but rooted deep in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing connection. Yet surrender teaches us an important lesson. Love is not control. Love does not mean shaping someone else to fit your comfort zone. Love means allowing them to be fully themselves, even when it challenges you, even when it confronts your own insecurities. Surrender in relationships doesn't mean silence or avoidance. It means releasing the illusion that closeness requires control. True connection can only thrive in freedom, not pressure. The more you try to control how someone shows up, the more tension you create. Trying to force emotional safety through control only makes the relationship less safe. People need space to be real, to change, and to grow. That space can only exist when we are willing to surrender our assumptions about who they should be. People who insult you usually do it with one clear goal in mind: to provoke a reaction. They want to control your mind with their words. They want to see you angry, defensive, or upset, because that reaction tells them, "I have power over this person." But when you don't follow the script they've imagined in their heads, it ruins everything for them. You don't explode, you don't shrink back. Instead, you simply look at them, calmly, not with rage, but with a kind of quiet amusement, like you're watching a child throw a tantrum in the middle of a crowded supermarket. Maybe you even give a small smile, not out of mockery, but because you see through the little game they're playing. Seneca once said, "A great mind despises injury, and a noble man is never angered by insults." And it's true, anger doesn't prove strength. It reveals a lack of control. You see, nothing exposes a person's insecurity quite like watching them try, and fail, to provoke someone else. You don't need to throw a single insult back. In fact, your silence is more powerful than any comeback. But it's not a weak silence. It's a deliberate, confident silence. A silence that forces them to sit with their own discomfort. It rings in their minds like a bell, reminding them, "You failed to bring me down to your level." And it's not just them who notice. Others see it too. Your calmness becomes an unspoken declaration: "I am not easily moved." Now comes the third thing you must remember: maintain absolute self-control. If you want to win in this psychological game, you have to master the one thing your opponent never could: yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about that for a moment. Because when you are in control of your own emotions, no one else can touch you. They can curse at you, insult you, try every trick in the book to get under your skin, but if you don't bite, you've already won, even before the battle ever begins. A person can't drag you into anger, into confusion, or into hurt, because you're not within reach. And when they realize that, they fear you, not because you've threatened them, but because you represent a kind of strength they can't understand or control: self-mastery. A man with inner discipline is not easily shaken. Even when misunderstood, mocked, or attacked, he holds firm, steady like a mountain, still like a quiet lake, unmoved. That's why people like that often make others feel uneasy. Because their calmness is a mirror, reflecting all the chaos. impulsiveness, and weakness in the hearts of those around them. And once you've mastered your silence, once you've controlled your emotions, you can move to the next step, flipping the insult into a question. Because someone trying to provoke you always expects one thing, an emotional reaction. They want you to lash out, defend yourself, or at least remain silently furious. What they never expect is for you to calmly flip the script by asking a simple question that cuts straight to the core. Picture this. Someone mocks your ambition. Instead of getting angry, you ask, "Why does my drive bother you so much?" They attack your personal beliefs. You calmly respond, "Why is my belief system such a concern for you?" They ridicule your appearance. You look at them and ask, "What does it say about you that you're so focused on someone else's looks?" That's not just a question, it's a mirror. When you ask something like that, you're not playing their game. You're forcing them to face the deeper reason behind their behavior. And that's when things start to crumble. Because now, they're not in control. Now, they're being questioned. They have to look inward. And for an insecure person, that is the scariest place to be. After all, as we saw earlier, it's not retaliation that reveals a person's power, but restraint, clarity, and calm. So how do you truly flip the script on someone who disrespects you? You do it not with louder words or harsher tones, but with intelligent stillness, the kind Socrates himself mastered centuries ago. Socrates, the legendary philosopher and master of mental warfare, never had to raise his voice or hurl insults to win. Instead, he simply asked the right questions. Questions that quietly pulled apart the logic of his challengers until their arguments collapsed under their own weight. He didn't need to expose them, he made them expose themselves. Think about that. A man who insults you is counting on one thing: your emotional reaction. He wants you to stumble, to get flustered, to try and prove your worth. What he's not prepared for is a calm response, a question. Perhaps that flips the spotlight back onto him. Now he's the one on the defensive. And in that moment, he's no longer the aggressor. He's the one scrambling to justify words he never expected to be questioned. And often, he can't. Why? Because most people who lash out with insults aren't acting from strength. They're reacting from fear, insecurity, or internal chaos. When you calmly demand clarity, their confusion becomes visible. This is the essence of controlled dominance. You don't overpower someone with volume. You outthink them with presence, with restraint, with sharp questions and still sharper awareness. Nothing reveals a man's insecurity more clearly than when he is forced to explain his own nonsense. There is no mask to hide behind when logic is the mirror. So remember this: you do not need to prove yourself to fools. You do not need to waste your time on empty battles that only drain your peace. You are not here to entertain their chaos. Master your emotions, guard your energy, and most importantly, choose your silence and words with intention. Because when someone tries to tear you down and all they get in return is calm, clear strength, the weakness they wanted to hide becomes impossible to miss. Let them unravel while you remain unmoved. And if this message speaks to your core, subscribe to Stoic Glow for more timeless wisdom to guide your journey forward.